This is Part 2 Episode 164. Finally, the Earth Mage's incarnation was completed. If he had given all he had in defense, the Divine Light Waltz may have taken longer to pierce its way through, but just to maintain his domain technique's offense, Long Houchen's expenditure of spiritual energy was astronomical. He had to last as long as possible, so that even if Long Houchen finally achieved victory, he wouldn't have much spiritual energy left anyway. But this Earth Mage was just unwilling. After having made it so far, who would give up a chance of achieving victory? So he chose to launch his strongest attack, finally ready. A mini-person made of sparkling earth essence appeared, drilling into the ground immediately. At the time it resurfaced, it had become a gigantic form of earth essence over 10 meters tall. Shockingly, its body joined with the starry diamond barrier, as if becoming made of diamond. Springing up and joining his fists, he sent it smashing at Long Houchen. Upon its appearance, the earth essence within the internal barrier of the stadium had risen up dramatically. Like that, he nimbly landed, shifting just enough to evade the horizontal cut from Divine Light Waltz. The corners of Long Houchen's mouth traced a thin smile. This was the chance he was waiting for. If the opponent had only persisted with using his domain's barrier, there would be nothing else to be done than breaking it slowly. But things were not the same with the opponent using this powerful forbidden spell. Perhaps the defensive power of this Diamond Earth Elemental alone was no match for Diamond Starry Barrier. But don't forget, it had yet to benefit from the domain's boost, and was after all a magic that had achieved independence from its master. A purplish golden radiance flashed through Long Houchen's eyes, and the next instant, a massive figure took shape right above him. Its tail was swung like a hammer, violently whipping the Diamond Earth Elemental. In the meantime, a six-colored halo flared up. Six-element essence of disorder. The Diamond Earth Elemental could be categorized as an existence reaching the forbidden spell level, yet it was sent flying by that heavy blow. More terrifyingly, when that six-colored halation was diffused, changes occurred on both the Diamond Earth Elemental and the Mage's starry diamond barrier. All the Earth essence pulsed chaotically throughout Essence of Disorder, although the Diamond Earth Elemental was better off, being a Supreme Earth Elemental summon. Although Essence of Disorder caused several cracks to appear on its massive body, that did not end up being enough to shatter it thoroughly. Even so, the Earth Mage on the other side was forced back. Originally, when reduced into a state of passive defense by Long Houchen's Divine Light Waltz, he was hoping to rely on the Diamond Earth Elemental to reverse the situation. But who could expect that not only was the situation not reversed, but furthermore, he now had to suffer the attack from the six-elemental Essence of Disorder. Divine Light Waltz was also somewhat affected, but that domain technique was of a higher level, and furthermore used Long Houchen's supremely pure light, hence it was less affected than his opponent's. Crack. The starry diamond barrier smashed to pieces. Divine Light Waltz now looked about to cut through that Earth Elemental Mage. This Earth Mage kept performing outstandingly. In a flash of white light, the Diamond Earth Elemental shifted its position, arriving in front of him, and blocked Divine Light Waltz midway. However, the Earth Mage's domain was ripped apart alongside the Earth Diamond barrier. How could it recover instantly? The Diamond Elemental had a massive wound, Earth Element having gotten splattered across in front of Divine Light Waltz's terrifying cutting force. A body which was originally already full of cracks was almost split in two on the torso level. After Divine Light Waltz vanished, Long Houchen swung his sword in the air once again. This time, his body was surrounded by an intense purplish golden gloss. Sword intent and sword soul were wielded harmoniously, with Haoyue's bloodline force added to that. A purplish gold sword light transpired through the sky, making way into that massive wound of the Diamond Earth Elemental. In a flash of yellow light, the Earth Mage's body flashed across to avoid getting taken down alongside his summon. The Diamond Earth Elemental was extremely powerful offensively, but although it wielded great defense, in the end it was not able to compare with the starry diamond barrier which benefited from a domain's support. Pop! The massive body crumbled, smashing to the ground. Haoyue appeared in front of it once again, sweeping his tail to instantly crush the Diamond Earth Elemental in two, sending fragments flying. At the same time, the six huge heads roared, unrestrainedly launching six breaths at the Earth Mage. The Earth Mage was already quite panicked. The starry diamond barrier couldn't recover in such a short time. As he was having to face Haoyue's attacks, he was only able to launch series of low-level earth barriers. The battle having reached this point, the outcome was already without suspense. Long Houchen's figure flashed, and he appeared behind the mage as elemental obliterating halo was liberated. The starry diamond barrier could block the elemental obliterating halo. This low-level barrier couldn't withstand it so easily, however. Adding Haoyue's attacks from the other side, it took only 1 minute for this Earth Mage to choose to concede. Fourth qualification from the Demon Hunt squad, Bright Glimmer of Hope. At this point, Bright Glimmer of Hope had the complete upper hand in this individual competition. They basically only had 1 round left. Although another knight had made it to the top 6, he did not have much strength left, and so the final matter was to see whether Li Zhangji would make it to the top 3. In the 5th round, every winner could gain 16 points, thus causing great variations in the total points. Bright Glimmer of Hope had 4 members qualified from the 5th round, bringing them 64 points in total. Adding that to their previous 96 points, they had in total 160 points. The Knight Temple and Mage Temple's qualified member brought them respectively to 105 and 98 total points, ranked 2nd and 3rd. The other 3 temples' total points remained the same, 58 for the Spiritual Temple, 34 for the Assassin Temple and 24 for the Warrior Temple. At this point, Bright Glimmer of Hope already led by a wide margin, leaving no suspense for who would become champion of the individual competition. Before this gathering, no one could expect the individual competition to end up with such results. There had never been a single temple showing such impressive results in all the past temples' great gatherings. For sure, luck had its role for these results, in addition to the secret help from the Knight Temple they benefited from. But without sufficient strength, there's no way they would have made it so far. Amongst the 4, 3 had domains of their own, and 1 had eliminated a domain-wielding opponent. Be it in technique, strategy, or strength, Bright Glimmer of Hope fully deserved to call themselves a titled Demon Hunt squad. 6th round, start. Chen Zidian's voice was still full of grandeur, as the final rankings round for the individual competition started. Long Haochen immediately returned to the lounge upon the end of his match. What he wanted the least was to be in the first match. As long as he would not be the first, he would have some time to recover, due to the Heart of Eternity's formidable recovery, which filled him with confidence on this aspect. It is unknown whether the Light of Selection had its own will to make things like that, but its first light lit on Long Haochen, while the other one accurately illuminated Li Zhangji's body. When the 2 lights of selections had settled, the whole alliance's great stadium was visibly in total disorder. The first match of the 6th round was unexpectedly opposing Long Haochen and Li Zhangji. One could say that this was the most crucial battle out of the whole individual competition. If Li Zhangji managed to defeat Long Haochen, although the Mage Temple's total points would still be behind Bright Glimmer of Hope, it wouldn't be by much. And with Li Zhangji figuring in the top 3, even if the other 2 spots were to belong to 2 members of Bright Glimmer of Hope, the number 1 powerhouse of the alliance would surely be acknowledged by a lot to be him. It wasn't easy to say whether this battle was fair. Long Haochen's consumption against the Earth Mage was certainly not as great as what Li Zhangji had exerted against Chen Yinge, but Long Haochen had just finished his previous match, while on the other side Li Zhangji was the first one of the previous round to go on stage. But, no matter what, since the Light of Selection had made its pick, it wouldn't be changed now. Long Haochen had a quite severe expression, while Li Zhangji looked quite happy, obviously pleased with the Light of Selection's choice. Going up against Long Haochen was his most desirable outcome. The 2 of them faced off each other. The instant they made it on stage, the whole audience went totally silent, devoid of the slightest whisper. Long Haochen placed his right fist on the left of his chest, performing a standard knight salute in front of Li Zhangji. "Greetings, Temple Head Li." Li Zhangji revealed a humble smile. Deeply moved, he declared, "I really didn't expect you to be my final opponent in this temple's great gathering. Do you remember what I told you a few years back? That the next temple's great gathering would be the time for you to challenge me. But you have shifted this time 10 years ahead. The future is a world for you youngsters, but what I have said doesn't change. If you want to take my place in challenging the Demon God Emperor, you must defeat me. Come, show me whether you are able to achieve this." Long Haochen nodded lightly and moved his right fist horizontally for another salute before his 6 wings that had vanished just a bit earlier reappeared, bringing him aloft. Li Zhangji started a rapid chant, shifting his gaze to be locked onto Long Haochen. A dense green light spread as his chant carried a fantastic rhythm to the ears of everyone present. Long Haochen did not opt for an offensive approach in the same way as the previous lightspeed flash. The Heart of Eternity pulsed intensely on his chest to recover his spiritual energy, and in the meantime, his right hand was pointed in front of him, summoning the divine unicorn Star King back to his side. "Star King, lend me your strength." Long Haochen groped his head. Star King nodded lightly, extending his wings, as a dazzling starlight of 7 colors shone on its horn. The next instant, the 7 colors spread again, covering Long Haochen and his mount in their scope. Long Houchen rode Star King, the multicolored starlight falling and going back up, to form a multicolored pillar of light, going all the way to the top of the barrier. Although Star King had already become a divine unicorn, its foundations were still the same, a starlight unicorn king's. This was its star domain. Originally, for the sake of assisting Long Houchen, he had once forcefully used this skill. But now that it reached the 9th step of cultivation, utilizing star domain couldn't be more easy. Although it was still not a genuine domain, it was very close to that. A light essence of incomparable intensity gathered inside Long Houchen's body in the midst of the heart of eternity's intense pulse. His spiritual energy was replenished at a frightening speed. Star King's eyes lit up, and with a long hiss, the horn atop its head lit up, wrapping Long Houchen and itself in light, so that their silhouettes were hidden from the outside world. Everyone had their own trump cards. Just like Li Zhongji had yet to use his most powerful ability, Long Houchen also had yet to reveal his most powerful mode. When facing Yang Haoyu, he did not have the opportunity to unleash it, as he had to utilize his domain non-stop and resist the opponent. But right now, when facing Li Zhongji, and as this was most likely his last match, why would Long Houchen show any more reservations? The multicolored radiance vanished, and when Long Houchen reappeared to everyone's sight, the audience couldn't help but gasp at the sight of him. Right now, his whole body was shining under the illumination of his multicolor armor, flowing with multicolored light rippling out. From the looks of it, he appeared to have a demeanor very close to divine knights. The multicolored light was a sign of divine tools. The divine unicorn transformed into a multicolored armor was equivalent to a divine tool-level armor, and he benefited from the extreme boost from Star Domain, which had replenished Long Houchen's used-up spiritual energy, making 80% of it available to him right now. As a supreme-level transformed mount, the divine unicorn, which seemed to be just a supportive character, and furthermore not up to much, was visibly underestimated by a lot. As it turned out, although Star King had just evolved recently, and had yet to acquire a lot of a divine unicorn's abilities, he was still a genuine divine unicorn. The divine armor put on him, Long Houchen's eyes leaked a dazzling glow. Adding to that his six-winged appearance and extremely handsome face, it drew the gazes of all the females present to him. Haoyue! Long Houchen shouted loudly at once. In a dazzle of purple gold, Haoyue reappeared by his side, this time turned into a purplish golden radiance rushing forth toward Long Houchen. The spectators had all witnessed Haoyue's armor transformation. That's also what happened in the match between Long Houchen and Yang Haoyue, which combined with his domain's evolution enabled him to achieve victory. Could he be planning to equip double armors? Thought most. However, they rapidly realized their mistake. Haoyue did not transform into his armor form, but into a gigantic sword, appearing in Long Houchen's hands. The divine unicorn armor and Haoyue transformed into a purplish gold Haoyue sword. That's Long Houchen's strongest mode, even in a situation without the use of any equipment from him. It was the first time for Haoyue to transform into a sword. Compared to Long Houchen's other two divine swords, Haoyue's transformation was much more massive in size. The sword itself was over 3 meters long, colored purplish gold, with a 1 meter long hilt. Long Houchen also needed to use his two hands to wield it correctly. This ultra-large sword had 9 lines stretching from the handle up to the sharp point. 6 mini Haoyue heads extended from the thick blade, all spouting as if the edge came from their breath. While gripping this heavy sword, Long Houchen felt an incomparably tyrannical power surge out from this heavy sword. Linked with the bloodline force in him, its power seemed as if an extension of his own body. As a knight, Long Houchen had a keen link with his weapon. In front of this purplish gold Haoyue sword, even Blue Rain, hibiscus of light of the aria of the goddess of light seemed lackluster. Imperceptibly, he sensed the aura of a 6-elemental essence of disorder surging out from this gigantic sword. How could he imagine that Haoyue would reach such a level of power after transforming into a sword? As Long Houchen's two magical beast companions transformed into equipment forms, on the other side, Li Zhongji's forbidden spell was done getting cast. An immense green shadow appeared behind him. Wind God summon. An immense wind god looking the same as Li Zhongji appeared out of nowhere. Right off the bat, that massive figure was 15 meters long, but bizarrely, its volume compressed itself, and in just a little while, it reached a length of 5 meters. Although it remained relatively huge, that made it a lot nimbler. All clad in greenish golden armor, it wielded a pair of axes. That was Li Zhongji's wind god summon, clearly different from the wind god used against Chen Yinge. Not only its weapons differed, but it gave off an entirely different feeling. Li Zhongji's whole body flashed in green color. In a flash, he entered in the midst of the wind god, whose eyes lit immediately as if infused with intelligence. Single-mindedly looking at Long Houchen, its axes pierced through the sky, and a hurricane burst out. That was the Wind God Domain's first domain technique, Hurricane. Waves of golden light surged in tides, flocking frantically towards Long Houchen. Long Houchen remained very calm, and his divine unicorn turned into a multicolored armor liberating flashes of golden light, accompanying the release of the Light God Domain. Two brilliances of golden and green color clashed each other. Due to Li Zhangji's domain technique, the instant the two brilliances flashed through the sky, Long Houchen's Light God Domain had a burst of power. But one could clearly see that where the two great domain techniques clashed, a white fire was ignited. Wind blew through this white flower, causing a remarkable shaking as well as a rise of strands of blue flames. Elemental suppression. This was an elemental suppression appearing in the midst of a contest of domains. From Long Houchen's view, this was the last match of the individual competition, so he no longer showed any reservations. The power of the Light God Domain came out in full swing, erupting all around. The light essence of extreme purity was sufficient to suppress powerhouses of any elemental attribute. Li Zhangji's domain technique also wielded some of the wind god's power, and at his cultivation level, his wind attribute was compressed to a great extent since long ago, but an insurmountable gulf still separated it from Long Houchen in terms of purity. Long Houchen's light attribute came not only from his Scion of Light physique, but moreover from the upgrade of the divine snail shield of Sun and Moon and the assimilation of Elux's physique as a Scion of Light. The three great light entities reached such a level that even if the goddess of light herself were to come out in front of him, her spiritual energy's purity may not even be a match. So, Light God was truly a well-deserved name. Li Zhangji's domain was named Wind God, but that was just a name, not the true Wind God's power. Even if the purity of his attribute were to be a match for Long Houchen, wind remains inferior to light. As a result, although Long Houchen's Light God domain looked constricted, he actually had the advantage in the clash of domains. The Wind God made its move. Flashing across, it arrived at the point of collision between the two domains. Waving the blade in its hand, it immediately sent a greenish-gold ray flying through the Light God domain, carrying along a hazy mist. Even if this blade was still far from Long Houchen, he felt very clearly its sharpness, perfectly combining blade intent and wind. Long Houchen felt secretly alarmed. Li Zhangji was a mage, but even in this capacity, he managed to deploy blade intent with his sheer technique. That was really a shocking talent. Long Houchen didn't avoid, neither did he shrink back. In this situation, if he were to retreat, Li Zhangji's attack would certainly make way inside the Light God domain, and thanks to his own Wind God domain, he wouldn't get too much affected by the Light God domain. But more importantly, should his domain be breached through, Long Houchen would be unable to utilize the divine light waltz he had just comprehended recently. So, Long Houchen faced the attack, coming up after his figure flashed. Wielding the purplish-gold Haoyue sword in his hands, he performed a downwards hacking motion. A purplish-golden sword ray was abruptly released from the purplish-gold Haoyue sword, but to Long Houchen's shock, his sword soul was actually unable to merge into Haoyue's sword form. This gigantic sword gave off the feeling that it would reject everything other than his spiritual energy and sword intent. The purplish-golden sword ray was over 1 meter long, vastly contrasting with Li Zhangji's Wind God blade ray. But these two powerful lights produced an unexpected scene at the time of their clash. The current Wind God was entirely under Li Zhangji's control. With the long blade in its hand, as well as his Hurricane domain technique aiming at Long Houchen, he believed with certainty that this strike would at least send Long Houchen flying away. Then he would keep using the Wind God domain to assault Long Houchen's domain over and over. Although his opponent had the advantage in terms of sheer domain strength, he had already comprehended two domain techniques, and, his research and understanding of his own domain surpassing Houchen's by far, he was confident in being able to surpass Long Houchen and achieve a final victory. But the instant his long blade came into contact with Houchen's purplish-gold Haoyue sword, Li Zhangji felt indescribable surges of terror from his brain, and immediately, the sword rays emitted from that long sword turned purple. In a flash of purplish gold, a rainbow light seeped out from the massive sword in Long Houchen's hands. That terrifying power full of destruction and havoc forced Li Zhangji to draw back swiftly as he flipped his long blade, forcefully cutting his connection with the blade rays. Everywhere those purplish-golden sword rays passed, the hurricanes within the Wind God domain were smashed to pieces, as the rays would keep traveling until reaching the defensive barrier on the edges of the field, causing it to tremble violently before piercing a hole inside, passing through it, and smashing into the ceiling of the Alliance's great stadium. To say nothing about Li Zhangji's dilemma, even Long Houchen himself was shocked. He absolutely didn't expect Haoyue's sword transformation to reach such a terrifying level. This seemed to be beyond the power of any ordinary divine tool. When sensing it, that purplish golden sword ray did not give off an excessively powerful feeling. But Li Zhangji's wind elemental spiritual highland was simply routed upon contact. This was already beyond divine power. From the purple gold Haoyue sword, Long Haochen could feel clearly a frantic demeanor seeking for destruction. He subconsciously lifted it horizontally. Immediately, a purplish golden curtain of light extended, sweeping away all the hurricanes everywhere it passed. Li Zhangji's wind god domain became full of cracks, appearing close to collapsing at any time. After a short time of shock, Li Zhangji came back to his senses. Once again waving the long sword in his hands, a small-sized wind blade was shot out, aiming straight at Long Haochen. That was the second domain technique he also had to use in his fight against Chen Yinge, freedom. This domain technique filled with the true essence of wind took a flash to arrive in front of Long Haochen, who slightly drew back, pointing the purplish gold Haoyue sword forward. Dang! A sonorous sound reverberated in the air. The wind blade ruptured, but countless gales swept at Long Haochen's direction. The purplish gold Haoyue sword was waved once again, and from it came out a drizzling brilliance. In just a split second, that explosive wind blade disappeared completely in the midst of purple rays. This was the sixth elemental essence of disorder combined with his bloodline force. After making this short attempt, Long Haochen gradually came into the realization that the whole earth was in his grasp with a sword in his hand. This was the tyrannical bearing brought by Haoyue. This was a supradivine tool that only he could control. Although he did not know how Haoyue achieved this, no one could deny the power of a divine sword that could even stand in front of Li Zhangji's second domain technique. However, after a short time of interaction, Long Haochen also realized some issues with the purplish gold Haoyue sword. First, this divine sword could only be infused with pure spiritual energy, and consumed his spiritual energy massively. 3 sword strikes had depleted over 30,000 of his spiritual energy. In the meantime, when using this divine sword, no offensive technique could be used alongside it. Only pure slashes and strikes. This was with Haoyue in a 6-headed state. If the purplish gold Haoyue sword was already so powerful, then when he would evolve to an 8-headed state, what terrifying level would this sword transformation reach? This video will end here.